What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to my channel. So I know that this video has been delayed by about a week now, but this is the video review for Silent Hill Homecoming. My article, which a lot of you have already read, will be down in the description below for your viewing pleasure. So awesome that you guys, by the way, just a side note, the fact that you guys even like watching video versions of my articles, I absolutely love, so thank you. We all know that home is where the horror is, and home is definitely Silent Hill Homecoming. The human mind is one of complexities, flowing ideas, morbid thoughts, and things that should not really see the light of day. The mind, much like the human that it's encased in, is beautiful, complex, and filled with a mystery. Much like a symphony, this game is a cacophony of beautifully timed chaos. It engulfs the player and makes its grip tighter as we enter into the maze and world of Silent Hill Homecoming. Now, Silent Hill Homecoming is a game that I went into with a bit of trepidation and excitement. A lot of trepidation. And a nervous laughter of what ifs and do I really want to deal with possible camera angles that make a roller coaster look easy. Homecoming came out in 2008. This was 2 years before I graduated from college. You're welcome to those of you who feel old right now. Now, just a little disclaimer, this is my opinion. Obviously. So if you guys don't like it, or if you guys disagree with it, that's fine. But whenever I see people down in the comments who are just like, no, you're wrong, this is how it should be, unlike my cats, your way is not the only way. I consider gaming in the 90s to be in kind of its baby form, when gaming was just starting. There was a lot of missteps, there was a lot of things that it had to sort through. This is when gaming had its big bang moment. In the 90s, it was pivotal for creation. There was so many new ideas, so many different things that were going around being created. Gaming in the early 2000s, however, it's more of its teenage years, hasn't quite figured itself out yet. It was getting more of an identity for itself, especially in the horror niched games. And now gaming is at a point where it's in its adulthood, its young adulthood rather, where it really knows more about itself. Gaming is in its prime right now. Gaming is in its prime right now, and it's going from that unsure adolescent to a well-formed 20-something-year-old. Seeing gaming as a teenager, so to speak, viewing it from the outside, and seeing that it knows what it wants, just doesn't know how to get there quite yet. I feel like a nostalgic parent. Now, hopefully personifying how I think of games will shed a new light on retro games. Well, retro games. Now, with progress, of course, there are stumps along the way, and there was one major critique that I had with this game as far as it goes as a whole. It's the controls and a bit of the combat and some minor glitches here and there. You thought I was going to say the camera angles. No, not this time, Linda. There would be moments when I'm fighting a boss and Alex would just lay there. He would just lay there. Just get up, dude. He would just stop short a lot, especially whenever I was, I can never pronounce this demon's name, but whenever I was defeating the specular, the sploocher, that thing that I can't pronounce, he would just stop short, and it would leave so much extra room for enemies to just punch him and slap him and just, you know, kick him when he's already down. I mean, other times it would just be as simple as him, or Elle for that matter, freezing in different places, walking into walls, or even showing up at save points where she didn't belong. I swear, she's probably an extra boss or something. I see you, Elle. The part that I'm talking about is whenever we were in the sewers and we had to fight off the Needlers. After Elle was opening the gate, we actually had the process of, if you guys remember in the playthrough I did, we had to fight off a bunch of Needlers, and then we had to go through the gate in which she so kindly opened for us. And then after beating the Needlers, there was this monster that we were supposed to fight, and everything would be good and dandy, right? After I fought the Needlers, I thought saving it would be a good idea, and then after I saved it, I go back, tried to fight the boss, died, obviously, because it's me. And then once I come back to the save point, she's there. Again, I say, are you a secret boss, Elle? Because showing up all over the place, that's very sketchy work. Other than that, it was pretty much smooth sailing. I mean, there was this one where she had like a Michael Jackson move, and she would like walk like backwards into a wall, and it would be kind of like a moonwalk backing up. And a lot of the mechanics made it so you really couldn't avoid enemies, if that makes sense. And it was really interesting because in Silent Hill 1 and 2, or Silent Hill 2 and 3 rather, because I didn't play 1. In Silent Hill 2 and 3, you really could just avoid all the enemies. They looked so tiny. Here, they looked actually proportionate to the size of Alex, Elle, and Wheeler. And you know what's interesting is that a lot of my friends, actually a good bit of my friends, were like, oh, you're not going to finish this because the game is too difficult. What? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over me finishing the game. They said the bosses were too difficult. They said the characters, you know, all this, the glitches, that and that. They're difficult, but for another reason altogether. Not gameplay-wise. Gameplay-wise, they were easy. Once you know how to deal with a certain boss or a character and you really predict the movements, this game is one that can be finished in a few days if you are sat down, not interrupted for a few hours at each moment, because it's honestly one of those games that I feel like, yes, it has its glitches, yes, it has its awkward camera movements and everything like that, but that's games back in 2008. You need to understand the time in which it was made. People can't forgive a game for its childhood, referencing the beginning of the article, which I talked about, you know, the game's puberty and all that. In the 90s, you had the little kids, you know, in the 2000s, you had their prepubescent phase, and now it's like a full-formed adult. So please, it's the same for people. Forgive their childhood, okay? My friends, while they have good intent, they don't really understand that it's possible to finish any and every single game you play. Or else it wouldn't have been made, or it would have been made into this weird philosophical-esque game that was done in a coffee shop at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Or the game just would have been a weird what-off philosophical piece where the dev decided that it's one of these that are not meant to be finished. Silent Hill Homecoming was mentally difficult because it further discussed psychology in a way that made it more real to an extent. More difficult in the sense that Kojima and the writers were really pushing the emotional envelope, so to speak, and people were moving more away from their screens but closer to the edge of their seats. And the psychological aspect of the game is one of the most intense I have ever seen, of where we go through Silent Hill 2. We go through Silent Hill 2. That was so intense, and this is more intense than that. Much like Hercules, Alex is tested. He is manipulated by people he's known. He's manipulated by his mind. He's manipulated by his surroundings. And they lead him to different conclusions at every turn. Is Josh dead? Is he alive? Is he just within reach? He doesn't know. He goes through all of these different bosses that symbolize, at least in my opinion, the different mental state that he is in. And next up, I'm going to be discussing my hypothesis on a lot of the boss battles and what they represent, so let's get into it. So remember that boss I was talking about before, that specular, sploocher, tree-like thing? That's the first boss that you meet? Yeah, he's interesting. Boss is basically Alex carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Look at the sacks that are around the character and look at the demon that is in the tree. He has to get rid of all the surrounding problems in order to get to the root of the problem. No pun intended. Taking away all of these extra issues so he can get to the source, the meaning, the magnum opus. Now the next boss that we fight is Scarlet, and for me, Scarlet is Josh. Seriously, like the way that you see a child boss in there, which, side note, this boss is the only one that is named after a deceased human being. In this sense, Alex tries to save the daughter to an extent through trying to help the father. That way he feels like he's giving some of his purpose in trying to help these other people and save these kids who are actually of the different people who end up dying right before each boss battle, ironically enough. The daughter being fragile like porcelain reminds him, at least in my opinion, of Josh in a way, how Josh is so fragile and kind of just emotionally fragile to an extent, you know? All of these kids being the ones who are being sacrificed to appease the gods that they worship or to appease Alessa. We may never know. And the next one is Asphyxia, and this name I automatically recognized is to asphyxiate, which means that you stop someone from breathing. Alex takes on so much, him thinking that he's in the army. Spoiler alert, it's been since 2008. There are no more spoilers after 12 years, okay? Alex, in my opinion, I feel like he really can't breathe. He's being suffocated to an instance with all of the mental disorders that he has, with everything going on from childhood, not being the favored one, Josh being the favored one. He feels like he's suffocating mentally. Now, Curtis is an interesting one because Curtis, I feel, is a representation of his father. I wrote this article before I had the interview with the developer from Silent Hill, so I got the actual reason why Curtis is in the game. By the way, thank you so much, Justin. That was awesome of you to give me that little tidbit. But it's really cool how you have so many different perspectives of what a character could mean, and then you hear the underlying reason, and I'm just like, and I thought that since Curtis is the only actual human boss within this entire game, it's kind of reminding Alex of his humanity and trying to, humble him a bit. And lastly, Amnion. I think it's Amnion. It's the pregnant robotic humanoid spider thing. It's a mouthful, I realize this, but this boss appears right after Alex remembers everything. I tell you everything just in case you haven't played the game, and I'm just going to be a little bit nice to you, even though it's been 12 years. Now, the word amnion could be derived from the term amniotic sac, which is used to carry the baby, which after the boss battle, he cuts the belly open and he sees Josh. Voila. I mean, you know, amniotic sac. Kind of weird to have that considering the fact that it's kind of like a rebirth and he's trying to find Josh, and the one place that he finds Josh is in his memories. Kind of links back to the very beginning of the game, don't you think, whenever he's trying to help the lady in the apartment complex find her memories? It could also literally symbolize the guilt that he is carrying, literally carrying, manifesting this thought of carrying guilt. The game obviously has a lot of symbolism. Obviously. A lot of people considered Pyramid Head to be fan service. We learned it was not. It's not true on so many levels. The people who think that Pyramid Head was fan service, I go listen to my podcast. I've come to gain a deeper understanding of the character and the maturity and the whole essence that is Pyramid Head. It's not just a character that embodies these aspects of strength or a misogynistic attitude like we saw in James in Silent Hill 2. But it's also a symbol of one's strength and prowess and how they develop their mind over time and over adapting or choosing certain situations. The Pyramid Head for James was the worst part of him. It was the rapist, it was the misogynist, it was the killer of his wife, but in Alex, it's something completely different. In Alex, it's the egotistical human who's looking for answers within. The Pyramid Head in Silent Hill Homecoming is the human looking for clarity in the world. Be looking for clarity in the world, looking for clarity even in their own mind. The Pyramid Head kills off Adam, the father, symbolizing that Alex has forgotten him, that he's killed him off in his own mind, in his own memory. The Pyramid Head showing up midway in the game, Alex is cowering behind all the rubble and just like, okay, I see you, but I don't really see you. It shows us that Alex is afraid of what he could potentially become. Now, if you guys got the Boogeyman ending and you chose to be a dick throughout the entire game, then you become a Pyramid Head yourself. The Pyramid Head / Boogeyman in this thing / the red Pyramid Head thing serves as a dual purpose. One of penance to a degree for Alex's father, that way he feels like he has served some sort of a remorse in a sense for what he's done to an extent. Since Alex's father wasn't a kneeling man in the chapel, he could choose whether or not to forgive him or not. And Adam was the one that the Pyramid Head actually went and physically killed to act as the removal emotionally, that tie from the father. The Boogeyman / Pyramid Head / that red pyramid thing, all different names, but they serve the same purpose. They all serve as a subconscious way of realizing that you are human. You're not perfect, you have your flaws, and they make or break you. Now, if you get the ending of where Alex turns into a Pyramid Head, you have two Pyramid Heads that stand beside him and put the pyramid on the top of his head. Basically turning into the worst part of you that you have accepted or that you have chosen to accept about yourself that you want to become. Because it's all a matter of choice at the end of the day. You know, it's strange that two Pyramid Headers standing beside them. What does this mean? Was James one of the Pyramid Head? Did he turn into his worst own action? Which means it basically turns into a loop. You know, you choose good, you become good. You choose evil, you become evil, and so on and so forth. In my view, you can easily interpret the helmet on his head being trapped to an extent, because you are literally trapping yourself in your own choice. Now, there are a lot of different mental traumas that I could go really in depth with in regards to Alex, but I'm thinking of just saving that for an episode of Psychologically Gaming where we just focus on the mind of Alex Shepard. But to briefly explain what he is experiencing within this game, because I've had a lot of time to think this over, of where he is basically having different forms. And just keep this in mind, because I know this is something that's being talked a lot about right now, is dissociative identity disorder. And this is something that I feel Alex heavily has in the game throughout it. When Alex awakes in the other world, it could be a form of disassociating, not remembering where he was, clips of different pieces all put together like a really badly edited movie. Like a movie that doesn't make sense, like something that you might have seen and feels like a memory to an extent, of where not remembering where he was, knowing that the place looks familiar, and understanding that he is in a place, but he's like, where? He also suffers from PTSD, flashing back to different moments in the past that trigger going into the other world, ending up to disassociate again. In my view, Silent Hill Homecoming is one of the best titles from Silent Hill, be that as it may. I have not played the first Silent Hill, and I have not played the other ones. I've only played 2, 3, and now Homecoming. To fighting small creatures like Needlers, who shield bullets. Why the frick are they shielding bullets? And then you have rotting dogs, and you have things that go, you know, they pop their chest open, and you only have like a second to, you know, kaboosh them. Those smog things were by far the trickiest. I'm sorry, I have a grudge against them, okay? It keeps you on your feet, it keeps you on the edge of your seat, this game, it really does, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who is a Silent Hill fan. Again, those of you who keep saying, Pyramid Head was put in there for fan service. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like my face and what I do and you like my reviews, please be sure to consider supporting me down on Patreon, down in the description below. It is $15 a month to get the articles early because I do put them out a week before they are even published on my Wix website and on YouTube. That way you guys can get them early and read them and give me some feedback and maybe see how bad my grammar is. But all the links will be down in the description below for your viewing pleasure. Again, if you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below because I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and double uploads on Friday. Stay casually nerdy, you guys, and I'll see you all in Wednesday's video. Peace.